All right, this is a vinyasa flow that we're going to work from Janu Sirsasana, or head of the knee. It's a really wonderful forward fold. So we're going to work that in a couple times here. But to start, we're going to come into a supine reclining position. And you really can take any supine position that feels good to you. I'm taking Supta Baddha Konasana here. Soles of my feet are together, knees opening out towards the floor. And then I like my arms above head just to facilitate that breath movement all the way up to the tips of my lungs. You're welcome to have your feet a little closer or farther away. Knees can be together, so take any leg variation that is comfortable to you so that you can just focus on your breath here. Close your eyelids down and establish your breath rate. Listen to it and feel it moving from your belly up to your chest. Try to relax any gripping in your chin, your jaw, your shoulders, or your hips. And as you're here for a few more moments, you'll start to notice simply the awareness of your breath is enough to shift the breath, and you'll feel it to get longer, smoother, softer. You could place your hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. So right hand on your belly, left hand on your heart, right on your chest area, and you can feel the breath now moving under your hands. Noticing the breath moving, flowing, surging in and out like a wave, just swaying in and out of your body. And this breath pattern and breath rate is what's going to set the pace for your practice. And it could be faster than me, it could be slower than me. You've got control of the video, so you can pause it, speed it up, slow it down. But also you have control of how you react to your breath. So make a goal here to actually listen to your breath and move as a result of your breath. And one more big round here. You can feel the belly expand on your inhale, moving the breath up to your left hand under your chest. And feeling the softening on the exhale. If you need more time here, please take a few more rounds of breath until you feel like it's time for you to move. And when you are ready, you can start to take your knees up to the ceiling, feet flat on the floor. Resituate your hips if you need to. And then with your next inhale, lift your hips, lift your low back, lift your mid back. And you're only lifting your hips up so that they're in the middle of a diagonal line between your knees and your chest. And then exhale, roll back down to your low back. On your inhale, tilt your pelvis down and arch your back up so your butt is not lifting quite yet. On your exhale, lift your tailbone, round your low back. And then on your inhale, lift your hips higher, lift your belly, lift your chest. Exhale, roll down your spine to your low back. Keep your tailbone the last thing to land. Once your tailbone is down, then tilt the tailbone down to the floor, arching your back. Cat-cow here. And exhale, round your spine, your tailbone lifts up off the floor. And then when you're ready to inhale, roll up onto your shoulders if you can, but only going as high as you can comfortably. Exhale, rolling your spine down to your low back, then to your hips, and then to your tailbone. And then on your inhale, tilt your pelvis forward, lift your chest up, lift your heart up, lift your low back up, shoulders move back down towards the floor. Exhale, round out your low back, lifting your tailbone. And then inhale, peel your spine up off the floor. Exhale, roll back down the spine, landing lastly on your tailbone. And then one more. Inhale, tilt the pelvis forward, lift your low back, press your shoulders back and down into the floor, heart lifts, chest lifts, ribs lift, and then exhale back to center. Let your inhale neutralize your spine. Reach your arms above head, knees can lift in, and then on your exhale, reach down for your knees and give yourself a squeeze. Apanasana, knees to chest. And just pause here for a breath. Next inhale, stretch your arms overhead and take your knees forward so they line up over your hips. And then you can start to move this into a twist. Open your arms out to the side and let your knees drift off to the left. Relax your legs. Relax your upper shoulders. Inhale, lift back up, keeping the shins a little bit higher than parallel. Exhale, off to the right. And then on your next inhale, pull your left ribs back over to the floor and lift your shins and toes back up to the ceiling, keeping the knees bent. Exhale, take your knees off to the left. And so the closer your knees are into the body, it's not going to be as intense, but if you can push those knees away a little bit, it's going to be a little bit more core work. Inhale, roll your right ribs back over to the floor and lift your knees up over your hips. Exhale, off to the right with your legs for a twist. And again, inhale, roll your left ribs back over to the floor, knees up. Exhale, knees to the left. Really engaging the core and the spinal muscles. And then inhale back up through center. And exhale, last one here to the right. Pull the left ribs back over as you inhale, come back up through center. And then stretch those arms above head, big, big stretch. Squeeze down to your knees as you lift your head up and squeeze into a ball. So this is the setup for half boat, Ardha Navasana. You can keep your knees bent, or if you'd like to explore the straight leg variation, stretch your legs out in front of you and look down towards your ankles, chin towards chest, arms stretch forward. Resting here on your lumbar, the low back. Hug your right knee into your chest, and then lower your left leg and your shoulders and head gently back to the floor. Once your upper body is back on the floor, straighten your right leg up to the ceiling and take a bit of a reclining stretch here, Supta Padangusthasana. Shoulders fall down to the floor, and then if you want, you can add in an extra little curl. Crunch up, exhale. And then inhale, release back down to the floor. So your shoulders aren't stretching towards your leg. Your shoulders are settling back down. And if you're crunching up, you're leading with your forehead, your chin, your chest, and then lowering back down. Keep your left leg active and both thighs strong so both legs can remain straight. And one more. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, release back down to the floor. And then bend your right knee, hug your knee into chest, lift your head up again, crunch up to your knee with your nose, lift your left leg, float your arms, and then re-extend your right leg. Ardha Navasana again, half boat, both knees could be bent. Here now your left knee is going to squeeze back in and your right leg is going to stretch out if it's not already, and lower your right leg and head and shoulders back down to the floor. Right leg stays strong. Left thigh extends the left knee. Stretch your left foot up to the ceiling. Reach your hands up to where they'll comfortably reach. Calf, thigh, heel, foot. Shoulders drop back to the floor so that you're not reaching with your shoulders. And then as you exhale, crunch up. So your upper back is coming off the floor when you crunch up. And then inhale, release back down, lengthening your spine. Exhale. Zip in and up, sit up towards your shin with your forehead, and you can gently use your hands to take the left foot closer overhead for a bigger stretch. Inhale, release back to the floor. And another one here, exhale, crunch up. And inhale, slowly lower back down onto the floor. And then you can rebend your left knee, hug your left knee into your chest. And while you're here now, go ahead and sit back up with your torso. Pull your legs back out or in into half boat. So either both knees in or both legs out. Ardha Navasana, half boat. Lift your ribs off the floor even more, and then start to sit all the way up into full boat Pariparnavasana. You can use your hands on the floor for a little boost. You can then, once you're there in the upward facing position or in the seated upright position, you can either bend your knees, you can use your hands on the backs of your legs, or straighten out your legs. And then take your feet to the floor, and then hug your knees into your chest, arch your back, extend your spine, open your chest up. Straighten out your left leg on your exhale. Take your right leg out to the side. Right foot is up inside the left thigh. Janu Sirsasana. Inhale, reach forward, and then exhale, fold over your left leg. Please feel free to dynamically move and repeat that same process. Inhaling, lengthening out halfway, and exhaling, forward folding. If you're comfortable in the static forward bend, stay and just enjoy the pose. Resist, though, using your arms to pull yourself deeper into the pose. Instead, use your core muscles, the deep core muscles of the front of your body. Next inhale, come up halfway, and then exhale back up to seated. Take your left hand behind you, your right foot to the floor. I'm going to reach up with my right hand and simply take a half tabletop pose. And it's kind of like a side plank, but the back of my left heel is on the floor. If that's too intense for your wrist, you can definitely turn your fingers to face the edge of your mat and then turn up. That did not feel good for my wrist. That was actually harder for my wrist. So I know everybody's got a different makeup. Decide which one feels better for you. So I like the hand pointing back. And then again, lift your hips and lower down. So if you don't like your left heel being on the floor, scooch back so your left heel's on the mat. And then you can add in an extra little heel lift of the right foot if you want some more hamstrings and calf work. And keep going. Inhale as you lift your heel if you want, lift your hips, lift your heart. Exhale, lower down, keeping the left shoulder firm and engaged. Okay, and then come back into a straight leg seated position, Dandasana staff pose. We'll do the second side. Left foot slides up towards the left sit bone. Turn your left sole of the foot, the foot sole of the left foot to the right thigh. And then as you inhale, lengthen, exhale, forward bend out over your right leg. Again, take the next 3 to 5 breaths here in dynamic movements. If the static position is too intense for you or stiff, or if it's painful, don't do it. You can inhale, lengthen, and exhale, soften out over your right leg. And keep pressing down into the sit bones and squeezing your left knee straight forward. On your next inhale, you can lengthen back up halfway. And then exhale, use your back muscles to pull your head back up over your hips. Take your left foot now to the floor and your right hand behind you and point your fingers in the direction that felt best for your wrist and shoulder. And then here we are going to lift up the hips. You can use your left heel on the floor, kind of turning to the right side of the room slightly. It doesn't need to be a straight up position. And then find the right place for your right arm. If the right hand was too close in, take it back farther. That felt better. Now I can lift my left heel and get the glutes and the hamstrings more involved. Exhale, lower. Inhale, push down into your right heel and left toes. Lift your left heel if you can. Otherwise, keep it flat on the floor. Exhale, lower down. So you feel your legs, your core, your arms working. Inhale, lift. Again, you're kind of opening to the right. There's a slight side opening there. Exhale, down. And then one more. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. All right, now take again your left leg out straight. And then we're going to slide the right foot back up into Janu Sirsasana, head of the knee pose. Right foot inside of your left thigh. Inhale, lengthen, and exhale, fold out over your left leg. Keep squeezing your right knee in towards the center line and press those sit bones back away from you. Left thigh is engaged, and your right glutes and outer hip muscles are engaged to press your right knee down towards the floor. Inhale, lift up using those back muscles again. Exhale, come all the way up to seated. Right hand is going to come back behind. I'm scooting back on the mat because the left hand's going to come back behind. But I'm scooching back on my mat so that I can have that left foot flat on the floor, because this time we're going to add in the right foot's on the floor and then turn to the outside of your left foot. Left hand is now under your shoulder, and this is a modified side plank. Somewhat of a wild thing. And so take your somewhat into a complete wild thing if you want. I'm going to now turn over with my right hand. I have to hop back over to the center of my mat with my left foot. So now my right leg is lifted and I'm in 3-leg dog. And you can stretch out there, open the hips a little bit. Look forward and squeeze your knee into your chest. Step up and then turn to the left so you're set up for a wide leg standing forward bend. Make sure your feet are pointing straight and they're the appropriate width apart, and then exhale, fold down. You can take any variation here. So if you want your head to the floor, if you want your arms out, hands behind your back, whatever's going down here, you're pushing down with your feet. You're engaging your thigh muscles. Take a half lift, inhale. Walk your hands forward again. We're going to move this into a goddess squat, Devyasana. So now I'm going to lift my heels and turn my heels in so my toes can point out. This may take some working a little bit, resituating your feet to find the appropriate spacing. Pushing straight down into the center of your heels. Lift your hips up higher than your knees. You could take your hands to heart. You could take your hands to hips, or you could even lean down onto your elbows on your thighs. But try to press your knees away from each other, pressing out, and try to get those shins vertical. And so if your hips are too low, you're not going to feel so much work in the tops of your thighs. So lift your hips up until you feel the tops of your thighs start to really burn and engage. I mean, you want to feel a massive work in the hips. And sometimes for me, it means I have to move my feet closer together. Then you can take your arms out in front of you, up to the ceiling, or out to the side if you wanted goalpost arms here. When you're lifting your arms up, there's definitely going to be a little bit of a low back bend, but try to kind of correct that with the front ribs pulling back in. Press to straight leg stand. Once you get to standing, turn your toes back to the edge of the mat. Situate your feet a little farther apart if they moved in closer. Turn your left toes in and your right toes out 90 degrees. So you're in Trikonasana, a little bit of a reverse triangle. Inhale, stretch up. And then on your exhale, float your right hand down to your right leg. The right leg is straight. So squeezing the right thigh here to pull the kneecap up and pull the ankle back behind the toes. Keep pressing down into your left heel. If you can slide your right hand down to your right foot, fine. Otherwise, just keep it on your shin and keep stretching your left arm up to the ceiling. As you exhale, bend your right knee and keep your hand on your ankle or take it to the floor, to the pinky toe side of your foot, the lateral side of your foot, so that your right knee is inside your right arm. Stretch your left arm overhead and lean back slightly. Take a bit of a back bend. Press your chest through your shoulders. You can look up and watch your left arm press overhead. Flat palm is definitely fine here, or a block. So a flat palm on the floor or block. And then spin your hands down, back over to your left foot so you can squat on the left foot with the right leg straight and you're facing the left side of the room. Your left ankle is in a massive squat, so you're using those front left ankle muscles to pull the toes up towards your ankle, even though your toes are not leaving the floor. So you may have to lift your left heel. All right, so I'm going to start to twist to my left. I'm going to start to hook my right elbow on the outside of my left thigh. And then once I find that hook, I'm going to lift and twist back to face the front of the mat. The right elbow still in contact with the left thigh. And then I'm in revolved high lunge. Palms pressed together. Press down into your right hand with your left hand and look up to the ceiling. Keep your right leg strong. Right thigh engaged. Right heel lifted. And the back of your spine is growing taller using your back muscles. Lengthen out. All right, gaze can move down to the floor and then your hands reach up to the ceiling. Head lifts up, heart lifts up, high lunge. Ashtha Chandrasana. Exhale, take your hands down to the floor. Plant your palms. Pinch the mat with your thumb and index finger and step back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Lift your hips, lift your low back, lengthen your low back, use your back muscles to extend your back, and then use your front rib muscles, the front core, to draw back in slightly. If you want to take a Chaturanga Vinyasa, move forward into plank pose. Exhale, bend your elbows, make sure your gaze and chest are moving forward. And then inhale, flip to the tops of your feet for upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Again, lengthen your low back. So there's a bit of a back bend, and then the front belly, the front ribs are pulling back in so that you don't overextend. We're going to come up to seated. So hop up and cross your ankles, and then sit down behind your heels and stretch your legs out in front of you. We'll get that second side in here. Take as long as you need to situate in staff pose. Left foot's going to come up. Open the left knee out to the side. Foot sole of your left foot touches the inner right thigh. Inhale, reach toward your foot. Exhale, fold over your right leg. Janu Sirsasana, head of the knee pose. And again, keep pressing back with your hips, squeezing your left knee towards your right knee. Stretch your chest towards your big toe, right big toe. Your forehead can rest on your shin if you'd like. And with each inhale, you can feel the lengthening out of your spine, stretching your chest towards your big toe. And exhale, soften into it. All right, inhale, half lift. And then on your exhale, we'll come up to seated. Okay, so again, if your right heel is not on the mat, you can place it on the mat. Take your right hand behind you and turn your right hand out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide all the way off to the edge of my mat, and this will make that transition into three-leg dog a little easier. So my left foot and my left sit bones lined up on the edge of my mat. My right hand comes over a little farther to the left edge of the mat. So if you were having a problem on that first side with lining everything up, this might help. And then press up to the outside edge of your right foot, and see your right foot and your right hand are slightly closer and line up. So it's a little side plank, wild thing, play. Press your chest up to the ceiling if you want a little bit more of an opening. And then when you look down to your right thumb, you'll feel your right hip, or your left hip rather, turn over. And right there you are on your right foot. And now you only have to hop over a little bit for that three-leg dog. So that will help with lineup if you were having a problem with that. Split that dog, stretch it out, look forward, bend your left knee, squeeze your foot up to the top of your mat, and then spin off to your right for the wide leg forward bend, Prasarita Padottanasana. And once you see that all 10 toes are pointing straight forward and your hips are in line with your ankles, fold from your hips. And once you can no longer fold from your hips, let the rest of the fold happen from your spine. Forward bends are 2/3 hips, 1/3 spine. And then you can play with your hand variation if you want to open your arms out. Come back up halfway. Heels in, toes out. We're going to play with goddess squat here. And then again, those shins vertical, the hips slightly higher than your knees. Arms can come out to the side. So your hips are higher than your knees again, not low, not as low as your knees. And those shins as straight up and down as you can possibly get them. But they, of course, they're not going to be perfect. So there may be a slight angle to your shins. You may have to move your feet out or in. My feet were way too far close together on this one. I was feeling nothing in my thighs, and it was just very awkward. I was feeling imbalanced, almost like I could fall back at any point in time. So as soon as I took my hands in genie arms, and made a wish, that's what I did. No, but as soon as I took my feet a little farther away, it resituated the posture right there. There it is. I did a little MC Hammer dance. There we go. Yeah. All right. Now I'm on. Now I feel it. So now I feel those thighs work. Press down into your heels. Press your knees out away from each other. And you can lift your chest in. So you don't want to round your back, but you don't want to overextend your back. So lift the front ribs in and use your low back muscles to extend. So the front core muscles are controlling the hyperextension in your low back. Wonderfully challenging posture here for your core, for your legs. Breathe through it. Feel your strong power in your legs. Glutes are working, pushing those knees out away from each other. And then we're going to press up, big reach up to stand. Once your legs are straight and comfortable, turn your toes back to the edges of your mat or to the edge of your mat. And then you can start to turn your left toes forward and your right heel is behind you. So your right toes angle in and your left toes point back. Inhale, reverse triangle. Exhale, reach down over your left leg and look down. Make sure your left toes are all pointing straight to the end of your mat in line with your left knee. Reach your right arm up. Maybe you can stretch your left hand down closer to your foot, or it stays on your ankle, which is perfectly fine. You can look up to your right hand. Lengthen your spine. As you exhale, stretch your arm overhead and then bend your right knee into your right arm. And from here, you could keep your left arm right where it is. So your left knee bends into your left arm. Or you can take your left hand on the outside of your left foot. Maybe your fingertips stay on the floor, or you can flatten out your left palm if it doesn't bend the right side of your waist too much. Keep the right leg active and the left hip from popping out. Look up, open your heart. One more breath here. And then look down to the floor and see where you're going to go. You're going to walk your hands over to your right foot and take that Skandasana stretch here. So I have troubles with this ankle because it's still not back to full mobility. So for me, I have to play with this a little bit. So you may have to lift the right heel, drop back to the right heel. I felt like I was going to fall, so I had to manipulate this a little bit. You may need something under your right heel. And whatever you're doing though, please don't let your left knee drop down. So keep that left thigh engaged, left kneecap lifting up to the ceiling, left toes pointing out or up. Somehow your left shin is active, right? Okay, so I'm going to open up first into a little bit of an opening twist, and then I'm going to come over around and hook the left elbow on the outside of the right knee. And it's going to turn your right knee in a little bit, but that's okay because you're not balancing on your right leg. It's not a weight-bearing knee right now. It's on the toes or your heel. Then spin to the right so your right toes point straight forward. Your left elbow maintains contact with the right knee. Now your left leg is nice and strong. Lift your left heel up to the ceiling. If you notice a rounding in your back, pull up from the back muscles and push your chest through to arch your back slightly. Press down into your left hand with your right hand for prayer pose. And breathe around the twist. Next inhale, take your gaze down, head up, arms up. Inhale, reach your arms, and then maybe reach your gaze back up to the ceiling. Lift your chest. Ashtha Chandrasana, high lunge. Left leg stays strong. And then on your exhale, take your hands to the floor. Again, pinch the mat with your index finger and thumb so you can step back into downward facing dog. Feel free to lift your heels. You can feel though the thigh engagement is driving the heels towards the floor. So it's not the heels pulling down from the sit bones dropping. It's from the thighs pressing back. And that actually will drive the heels down and lift the sit bones up to the ceiling to produce the arch in your low back that you want. If you're moving through Chaturanga, inhale into plank. Exhale, bend your elbows. Inhale to the tops of your feet. Bhujangasana or Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And then again, lift your sit bones, drive your thigh bones back. All right, so we're going to take the right leg up again, three-leg dog. And then you're going to look forward, squeeze your right knee through. Once your right foot steps up to the top of your mat, lower your left knee down. Flip the top of your left foot to the floor, and then inhale, lift your head up over your hips. You can take your hands wherever they go best in this posture. If your arms reach up and it puts a little pinch in your low back, take the hands back down to your hips or thigh. Keep pressing forward with your right knee. Allow the right knee to go beyond the ankle. Lift your right hip bone up, lift your left hip bone up. And exhale, release this lunge. So we're going to move this into a warrior 3. So if you have a couple blocks or a chair that you want to use, I'm going to tuck my left toes and I'm going to shift forward. My hands are on my hips. I feel like it's easier to come into this from the floor. So take it however you need it. Lift your left heel. And then you can take your hands down to the floor. You can take your arms out in front of you. I have a heck of a time balancing here because I always overextend the back hip and I can't see it until I watch this video. But I know that's why the balance was tough for me. Lower back down to your left toes, then your left knee for your low lunge. And then slowly take your hands back down and shift your hips back over your left knee for a half split. Ardha Hanumanasana. Keep your chest open and keep your right thigh engaged. This is not about how low you can get to the floor here. This is about how long can you get your spine and how far out over your toes can you extend your chest, not how far down to the floor can you get. You'll feel much more this way and it'll feel better. So let's give that warrior 3 another go. Bend your right knee again, slide it back under your foot back under your knee. And then from here, I'm going to move from the floor. So step forward with your hands and then pull up. And then I don't tend to hyperextend that left leg so much. Balance is still tricky for me though. There we go. Press back with your left foot and press forward with your chest. I'm going to move into handstand practice here. So take an extra moment or two in warrior 3. For me, handstand is easier than warrior 3. Take a couple hops in handstand if you'd like. You're going to see in a moment what not to do in handstand. So if you're balancing, fine. If you're not, fine. If you're walking on your hands, I guess fine. But I mean, I know that doesn't go good for me here. Walk. No, I don't want to do that. And then I'm going to shoot back chaturanga. I mean, it didn't hurt anything now. So just make sure you're having fun with whatever you're doing and being safe. If you're stepping back from warrior 3 into plank for chaturanga, move with your breath slowly. Maybe you rest in child's pose, but wherever you're landing, it's a moment to just kind of twist it out, stretch it out. Maybe it's downward facing dog, child's pose. Take a couple breaths, and then when you're ready, we'll get that second side in. Left leg's going to lift up, look forward, see where your left foot's going to go, and then pull that left knee into your chest. Keep pushing with your right foot. Your right heel's lifted. The right leg is so strong when you press that left foot up. And then when you lower your right knee down, flip your right toes. Press down into your left heel. And then inhale, reach your arms up. As you sink down equally with both sit bones, lift up with your ribs equally. And that doesn't happen from your shoulders. That happens from your back, from the back core. Here's a really fun option I like. Hands behind the head, interlacing the fingers, and then pressing back. That helps to engage the upper back and get those back muscles engaged and supportive, actually. Also, you could keep your hands on your hips and hand on your thigh. All right, let's move into that warrior 3. So I'm going to tuck my right toes, hands to hips. I'm going to shift forward. The first go at it, I'm coming from an upright position, lifting from the back of my right thigh. So I don't lift as much with my right leg. If you do get wobbly though, here's a little tip. Bend your left knee and get lower to the floor and then re-straighten your left leg, and that'll usually help. You can take your arms out forward if you'd like. All right, and then slowly land back down on your right toes, right knee. Once your right knee lands, you can take your hands down to the floor. You can take half split, Ardha Hanumanasana. Maybe you need blocks under your hands here. So however you can keep your back open, not flat, not straight. Rounded is better than straight, at least. It's not unreasonable, but really extended. We want extension here. And see if you can keep your hips. You're not trying to pull your left hip back and jam your right hip forward. You're just trying to keep your hips pretty level. All right, let's get back into that warrior 3. So rebend your left knee, and then I'm going to come at this from the floor. So I'm going to tuck my right toes, take hands forward, and then lift the back of the right leg up, and then lift my upper back up and head. Press back with your right foot, Hands to heart. Hands down if you're taking the handstand. Have fun in Warrior 3 if you're staying there. Couple little hops in handstand. So this is a good way to play with handstand, just simply coming onto the toe and then back to the heel. And then the legs shooting up together is usually where I go. So if I split my legs, I can usually hold it. So try to split your legs and keep some weight in the other side of your body. So some weight on the back and the front of your body. A good trick to that is also bending both knees and pinwheeling your legs. Suck your abdominals in, squeeze your belly button in, push up with your feet. Okay, 2 seconds is better than none. Give it up. And chaturanga. I know I've had enough of that pose. And whatever you do, make sure you're smiling and having fun. If you're moving through chaturanga, take your time. If you're landing in downward facing dog or child's pose, take your time there as well and breathe. All right, I'm going to come up to a squat now, Malasana garland pose. So either step your feet up or hop your feet up to your hands, feet together, heels and big toes touching, knees move away from each other without externally rotating your thighs any more than you need to abduct your thighs at this point. Hands come down to the floor. Your heels do not need to be on the floor. If you want something under your heels, a blanket or rolling up the back end of your mat helps. If you want to wrap your arms around and hug your low back with your hands, usually my shoulders get a good pop from that, or hug the backs of your heels. But this is a wonderful stretch for your low back after all that lunging, low back bending, and balancing. And you can see my back is rounded, head is dropped, hips are dropped. I'm now going to move this into Bakasana. My knees are right where they need to be on the backs of my arms. And so that's where your knees are going to go into crane pose if you're going to practice it. So from Malasana, move your arms forward, straightening out your arms, and then shift your weight forward with a rounded upper back. Looking forward, lift your heels. You can flex your ankles or point your toes, either way. Flexing your ankles helps your hip flexors work harder. Chaturanga, shoot back or step back. Inhale, open your back bend here. Open your heart up. Exhale. Ground your down dog between feet and hands. All right, so we're going to move into Ekapada Rajakapotasana, one leg king pigeon. Right knee comes forward. Left hip and right heel are together. Top of your right foot on the floor. Press the right shin into the mat. Lift your chest up. Press back with your left leg. You can add in the quadricep stretch here. Bend your left foot if you can find it. Catch your left foot to your hand. You can use any approach to this that you want. My hand is flat on the top of my foot, elbow bending back, chest opening forward. I'm then going to take one extra little add-on here to move in toward the full arm balance or the full back bend. I'm going to take my right hand across to the inside of my foot. My left hand comes now between the arm and foot on the floor, and then I simply open up almost like I am strangling myself with my arm. And then if you have lotion on your feet and legs like I do, it's going to be slippery and your foot just kind of goes, and let it go. Come out of it. Stay in the hands on the floor, back bend for a moment just to neutralize your spine, and then come down to your left elbow, hug up with your ribs, and then twist off to the right. So your right hand walks out to the side, push down into your left elbow, stretch back with your left toes, and your right fingertips are twisting your shoulders open without leaving your right shoulder down. So the right shoulder opens up behind you. You can look over your right shoulder if you'd like. Come back to center, inhale, and then sweep your left leg around for Janu Sirsasana again. Right foot on the inside of your left thigh, and exhale, fold, relax. You can extend your spine out over your leg. You can rest on your forehead. You can rest on your hands, a block, a bolster. Inhale, lift up halfway, come back up to seated. Exhale back all the way up to seated, and then pull your right knee in and up, and we're going to balance here in boat pose, Paripurnavasana. Lift your feet first and then straighten out your legs. Careful not to let your back round down. Inhale and exhale from your belly. Okay, and then cross your ankles, and you can come up to a squat. I changed my mind. I'm going to teach you a little push back, a shoot back. Pull your feet under your sit bones, under your thighs. Come over your legs, hands to the floor. Uncross your ankles, kneel, bend your elbows, shoot back. So that's a little bit of a breakdown for the pickup shoot back. I changed my mind halfway through that process, so there you go. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Catch your breath before you move into Ekapada Raj Kapotasana. If you need an extra breath here, take it. Left knee comes up inside your left wrist, right hip down behind your left heel. Stretch your right leg back. And then inhale, lift your chest. So again, you can stay here. And you can add in the quadriceps stretch. The right knee can bend. And you're taking that right hip back over towards that left heel. So you're pushing, you can reach back a little, twist off to the right to get your foot. But then once you get it, try to then take your right hip forward again towards the back of your left heel. And then work that quadricep stretch here. Again, if you want to take your left hand across now and catch the inside of your right foot, and then your right hand comes down to the floor between the hand and foot connection. And then you're going to twist forward with your elbow coming right across your neck. And then when it slides out, let it go. You can always add on to that next time and see how it goes from there, right? So neutralize your spine here first, hands to the floor, and then elbows to the floor. And then we'll take the twist. Okay, so right hand can move over towards your left knee. Right elbow stays under your shoulder. Left hand out to the side. Left elbow bends. And then wave your spine open. Inhale. And then exhale. Twist from the mid upper back. And take your head back in line with your spine. Pull your chin back. Maybe even look up over your left shoulder if you'd like. All right, release the twist, inhale. And you're going to sweep your right leg around to the front now for Janu Sirsasana on this side. Left foot inside of your right thigh, inhale, and exhale, fold. Letting your back soften over this posture. Letting it be an easy pose. You know, the first time we did it, it was a prep for working into some of those standing postures and such. And then this is a kind of a recovery. And so the same pose can serve two different purposes, and notice the differences. Each just it depends on how you get into it. It depends on your mindset. It depends on what your mind is telling you that you want to do, what you expect from the pose. Okay, come up to seated, inhale, and then pull your knees in again. And then we're just going to come down to the floor this time. You're welcome to take another boat pose. Please feel free, have at it. I'm just going to come on down. And I'm going to move into a variation of halasana. It's actually called Supta Paschimottanasana. So it's a reclining forward bend. So at first, just hug your knees into your chest and keep your knees bent. And then reach up for your feet, for the balls of your feet with your hands. And you can stay here with your knees bent. At this point, decide how to add on. So you can pull yourself over into feet to the hands overhead pose. You could put a block under your hips. You could put a block under your feet. And maybe your feet are not on the floor. That's perfectly fine. If you then want to transition into halasana, your arms come behind you on your mat, squeezing your shoulders under your body more, until you're pushing the tops of your shoulder heads down into the floor and your armpits smile open. Legs are strong. For more in your calf muscles, walk your toes towards your head and flex your ankles more. For less in the calf muscles, point your toes back. And then this pose, I'm feeling a little bit more in my core. I'd like to feel more in my back fascia line. So I'm going to bend my knees down towards my forehead and take my hamstrings out of it so I can feel this stretch more in my back muscles. Be careful if this is too intense on your neck. Definitely, take the weight out of your neck if it's too much. Okay, I'm going to come out of this. Right there, I'm feeling it right there. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to show you. All right, roll down on your spine. Let your chin lift when you roll down, so automatically it's an opening in your chest. And you can set up for fish pose with any variation. I'm going to actually take Uttana Padasana, so it's like an extended hand and foot pose. So I'm coming to my sit bones, top of my head to the floor, scrunching in towards my butt as much as I can with the top of my head. My chest is up, arms are just bracing there. Now I'm going to lift my legs and lift my arms. And take your legs out at an angle and your arms point towards your feet. Your hands point towards your feet, really opening that throat area here. So great heart opener, great throat opener, a lot of core work, a lot of hip flexors work. So if you need to bend your knees, put them on the floor. Yeah. And then hands come back down, feet come back down, push into your elbows, lift your head, roll back down onto your spine. Open your arms, take a big breath in, let it out, let your back relax and simmer down. After that, back bend. Knees just fall over to the right. Once my knees fall over, knees fall over to the left or right, whichever way you want to go. Mine fell over to the left. And then once you get them to kind of fall over, your right knee can squeeze up and take the leg variation that you want. If you don't want to squeeze your right knee up, just keep it down where it was, staggered legs. And then swing back over to center. Pause in the middle. And then when you're ready, knees can drift off to the right. Your left knee can just stay where it is, or you can swing that guy up closer towards the right arm. Take any variation that feels good. Any leg wrapping, any leg hooking. If you need to use your right hand to help keep your left knee in place, you can do that. And just feel a stretch in the low back muscles and the mid back muscles. It's a very passive, gentle stretch. All right, and then come back over to feet on the floor. I'm going to land in supine bound angle, a Supta Baddha Konasana, the pose that I started in. If this does not feel good to you or your hips or your back, situate your legs differently. Again, you could take your hand to your belly and your chest and reconnect to the flow of your breath here. And just think back throughout the practice all the times that you felt connected to your breath, that you felt that your movement was in sync with your breath. Not the times that they weren't. It doesn't matter. Focus on the times that they were and how it felt and the experience. And instead of reaching and expecting that to happen again and trying to recreate that experience, just think about all the future times that you have to experience that syncing, that connection. It's going to happen again, and it's going to be the same beautiful feeling. And maybe it's not even going to be on your mat when it happens again. Maybe it'll be out in the real world. And when you're ready, you can move into a gentle relaxation posture. If you want to stay in Supta Baddha Konasana, you could stay there. You could take knees into constructive rest pose up to the ceiling. You could take straight leg Shavasana. But just a few moments to rest. Feel your breath move back into a natural breath. If you want to roll over to the side, you can roll off to your side and rest there for a few moments. Take as long as you have to end your practice. If you've got longer, just let this video roll out, tune me out, and just be in your own little world, your world full of your breath and your body and that connection, the syncing. However, when you do finish your practice and you find yourself in a seated position, take a moment to bow, whether it's internally, physically, mentally, to you. Bow to all that you do, all of your efforts here and everywhere, and tell yourself, thank you.